Yaffee program on WVNN.
All right, so it's President's Day, and I am here live. Hopefully you're still listening. I know a lot of you still have to work today. But now, since it's President's Day, I am stealing an idea from Dale's show for you to weigh in on the text line. I just can't come up with my own stuff, so I just steal everyone else's, apparently. Actually, though, I think he got it from the text line, somebody texting in the question. But I think it's a good question for President's Day. Who would you put on Mount Rushmore? Which presidents? Would you keep it the way it is? Or would you change some of the presidents or maybe all of them? Tell me on the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. I'm curious, if you had to name your favorite presidents that you believe should be on Mount Rushmore, or they don't even have to be presidents you like, just presidents that have made a major impact or something. Who would you put? I think it's a fascinating question. So I'm very curious what you think. I'll tell you what I think later on. So since it's President's Day, we'll do that. You are listening to the Yaffee program. This is the show where you can count on the latest news, the important guests, and the best analysis, all for your morning commute. You're on News Talk 770 AM 92.5 FM WVNN. No guests coming on the show today, but we have a lot to get to in a moment. I know this was my hated eight during Dale's show on Friday, but I want to read some of this. Jonah Goldberg, who's with the Dispatch, hates Trump. But he's, pretty strong conservative in some areas. He said something that just got me thinking about the Trump presidency, so I wanted to react to that. Also, Marco Rubio gave a speech at the Munich Security Conference. And from what I heard of it, didn't hear the whole thing, but heard stuff after the fact. Going to play some clips because it sounded really good for the most part. So we'll get to that. Also, I have the Alabama bullet points. Yeah, there's still stuff going on in the Yellowhammer State, so I'll update that. In the next hour, we'll do the Sunday news shows recap, where I recap what happened on those Sunday news talk shows, because I give you Sundays off. You're welcome. Don't worry about the news on Sundays. I'll recap it for you all the next day. Give you the highlights, the interviews from Meet the Press, Fox News Sunday, and others. My public service to you, and no taxpayer funding to do it. And it's free to you. What can I say? You're welcome. And by the way, Walker is here. She's going to do What's Trending later on in the show. Walker, how are you today?
I feel like I kind of did good today, but I also didn't do great.
You did? What? What happened?
Because I woke up 15 minutes before my alarm, so that kind of sucked. And while I made breakfast ahead of time, I did some overnight oats. I did not have anything to bring for lunch today, so I'm going to have to figure that out.
It's just what you said you had overnight oats?
Yes.
What's that? I don't even know what that means. What is that?
Oh, well, instead of, I just do it with the instant oatmeal packs. Instead of putting it in the microwave in the morning, you can just go ahead and put the milk in it and let it sit overnight, and it'll be soft in the morning.
Oh, okay. Wow. I didn't know that was a thing. I don't really like oatmeal, so maybe that's why.
I'm learning to like it.
Okay. Way to talk me into eating it. I'm learning to like it. It's an acquired taste. Okay.
It's an acquired texture, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. All right. I'm going to read this here from Jonah Goldberg. He said, small reminder, if you took conservative positions on the Constitution, the economy, foreign policy, or basic morality, and then radically changed them solely because a Republican was elected president who changed the party's positions, you were never really a conservative. You were just a Republican. Now, obviously, he's talking about Trump, and obviously he believes Trump hasn't been a great conservative president. Now, this is someone who just hates Trump. You talk about never Trumpers on the right who have Trump derangement syndrome. This is someone. By the way, I like some of his books. I like some of what he says. But he said this because this was his response, and some people were like, what are you talking about? This is what he said. He said, yes, I always said, and this is sarcastic, obviously, but he said, yes, I always said I wanted to destroy NATO, raise trade barriers, tax low-income Americans more, crap on the rule of law and the Constitution, bleep on the First Amendment, embrace industrial policy, negate federalism, and erase any sense that conservatism was a coherent set of principles. And this is one of those things where, in some ways, I can agree with Jonah Goldberg. I am not someone who's going to get behind the microphone and tell you that Trump has been the most conservative president or he's really guided by conservative principles. Trump is a disruptor. He's the great entertainer, but he's also a disruptor. He was meant to go in there and disrupt things. He was not guided by any type of real conservative philosophy. His philosophy is America first. He does believe in the country. He likes America, but his philosophy is not one necessarily all the time of limited government. But I thought it'd be interesting to go through a little bit of this because I think he takes it too far. My philosophy when it comes to Trump usually is criticize him when he does something I disagree with and then praise him when he does something I agree with. But overall, I think his presidency has been more good than bad. And usually what gets him into trouble is his mouth. Not necessarily his actions, but his mouth. But he says here, okay, he basically accuses Trump of destroying NATO. Now, Trump has been critical of NATO. He has done some things that NATO hasn't liked, but has he really destroyed NATO? It could be argued that NATO's stronger than ever. So this is one of those things where it's like, why can't you just say, I don't like his approach on NATO, but he's done some good things. No, he has destroyed NATO. Has he really? Because of Greenland? He's really destroyed NATO? I don't see that. Do you? Now he says raise trade barriers. Now, yes, this is something, and I've been critical of Trump on some of the tariffs, but it has been something that Trump has differed from past conservatives is the issue of trade. We've known that forever because he believes that we have been screwed through trade deals and he wants reciprocal trade. In some areas, this has been good. America has benefited. In some areas, I'm not so sure. So, okay, raise trade barriers. We're going to say he's spitting on the Constitution because he raised trade barriers? There was a time where Republicans believed in that. It's changed over the years. Okay, so let's go. Tax low-income Americans more. Now, I will say this. There is some conservative philosophy that believes that low-income Americans should be taxed more. Now, I don't know what he's talking about. The big, beautiful bill was tax cuts for everyone, especially the middle class. You'll see it this year. I've already noticed a difference this year. So I'm not 100% sure what he is saying other than maybe the tariffs. Once again, that the tariffs is a tax and that can tax low-income Americans. Okay, fine. But overall, there has been a philosophy that everyone should at least pay some income tax. Because right now, if you look at the income tax, the bottom 50% don't really pay in the big scheme of things when it comes to federal income taxes. All right, he says, embrace industrial policy. Once again, that's trade. He also accuses Trump of obviously can't say the word, bleeping on the First Amendment. And I'm like, how? I'm guessing, I've been critical of some of what the FCC chairman has said. I guess he's done some lawsuits against some people for accusing him of things. I don't think Trump is perfect in this regard, but frankly, you have J.D. Vance going over to Europe, making the point that if you want to talk about freedom of speech, Europe has been attacking it, and J.D. Vance has made that. And honestly, when you talk about freedom of the press, Trump talks to the press way more, even press he disagrees with. He'll slam them, but he is way more transparent with the press than Biden was. A lot of past presidents were. So this idea that he is bleeping on the First Amendment, and in fact, when you talk about the First Amendment, he has been extremely strong on religious liberty, which is part of the First Amendment. And when you want to talk about protecting the First Amendment, he appointed Supreme Court justices who have been great on the First Amendment. That would not be there if it were not for Trump picking them. So this idea he has just bleeped on the First Amendment, I don't buy it. Now, he said negate federalism. Has he really? I guess what he's talking about is he wants to withhold federal funding to states that disagree with him. Is that really negating federalism? In fact, federalism would be that the states do take care of themselves more. But when it comes to issues like abortion, for instance, through his Supreme Court picks, and he has been supportive of this, he has given that issue back to the states. Does that negate federalism? And then he said, and erase any sense of conservatism was a coherent set of principles. See what I mean? I agree with Jonah Goldberg in some ways that, yeah, Trump is not a perfect conservative. There are areas where I wish he could be more focused conservative. But we all kind of knew that going in. But I just never understand why that means you must go to the complete opposite extreme. Now, I understand why a Democrat would do that. But if you're a Republican conservative, why would you go to the complete opposite extreme and say Trump is doing all these things, which isn't exactly true either? Just because he's not the perfect conservative president doesn't mean he is, quote, destroying NATO, bleeping on the First Amendment, and crapping on the rule of law and the Constitution. I just don't buy this kind of stuff. We get it. You believe you're Mr. Conservative and Trump's not living up to that. Fine. But on President's Day, I think overall Trump has been more good than bad in a lot of ways. Now, I will say this. I do hope that the next president will be a more focused conservative. I think Trump had his role as a disruptor. I think it was needed to change things up. But at some point, we do need to get back to more fiscal responsibility and some more conservatism in some areas, which I think we can. But this whole extreme that, oh, he's doing all of these things, you're just sounding like an everyday Democrat, and I don't get it. I just don't get it. Just be honest about where you agree or disagree. But maybe you disagree with me. You can tell me. We have our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. And tell me as well, since it is President's Day, who do you think should be on Mount Rushmore? If you had to pick 4 presidents to be on Mount Rushmore, who would you put on there? Or would you keep it the way it is? You can tell me. 866-494-9866. By the way, the text line is brought to you by Regenesis Stem Cell Center. And you know that you can go to regenesisstemcell.com, make an appointment if you deal with any kind of joint pain, whether it's back pain like me. I got treatment for my neck pain as well. Maybe you have an old sports injury. Maybe you have a new sports injury. Maybe you have arthritis or neuropathy. Using your own body's adult stem cells, it can help get relief from that pain. And it's not invasive surgery. You'll be back to work in no time. But you can't get any help unless you contact them. So go to regenesisstemcell.com. Talk with Dr. Charles Lee, who is Alabama's leading stem cell physician. When you do, as always, let them know you heard about it from Yaffee. Back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Back here on the Yaffee program. Glad you've joined the show. And if you miss any of the show live, well, you know the podcast is up on the website, WVNN.com, or the WVNN app, or anywhere you get your podcasts, or any of your smart devices. All right, let's get to the headlines. Once again, we have those Alabama bullet points.
Alabama bullet points. Today's headlines from around the Yellowhammer State.
Sponsored by Larry's Pistol and Pawn. Number 4 today, according to Wallet Hub, Alabama is among the top states where groceries eat up your income. That's unfortunate. According to Wallet Hub analysis reported by Yellowhammer News, Alabama ranks 6th nationally among states where groceries consume the largest share of median household income, with residents devoting 2.33% of their monthly earnings to a basket of 26 common grocery items. Now, the study, which compares grocery costs to income levels across all 50 states, show that lower median incomes rather than high food prices primarily drive this burden in southern and Appalachian states like Alabama and Mississippi. Now, Mississippi leads the list at 2.6%, followed by West Virginia, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Kentucky. Wallet Hub analyst Chip Lupo emphasized that even with reasonable grocery prices in these areas, lower earnings force residents to spend a higher percentage. Number 3 today, U.S. Representative Robert Aderholt. He put forward his bill for the America 250 coin while it passed the House unanimously. See, the U.S. House of Representatives unanimously passed a bipartisan bill introduced by Congressman Robert Aderholt, known as the $2.50 coin for America's 250th Act. Now, it's co-sponsored by Representative Bonnie Watson, who is a Democrat out of New Jersey. The legislation authorizes the Secretary of the Treasury to mint and issue a special $2.50 commemorative coin to celebrate the nation's 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 2026. Now, the coin's design draws inspiration from the historic $2.50 gold piece issued for America's 150th anniversary in 1926, updated for the current milestone. Now, the bill also requires a study on the viability of producing and circulating the coin for everyday use. So there you go. Rare bipartisan support. Number 2 today, Alabama cities apparently have dropped their online sales tax lawsuit without prejudice, but they will refile it if the legislative reform fails. So a coalition of Alabama cities and school systems, led by Tuscaloosa, including Hoover, Mobile, Mountain Brook, others, has voluntarily dismissed their lawsuit challenging the state's Simplify Sellers Use tax without prejudice. Now, this was implemented in 2015, imposes an 8% flat tax on many online purchases, but critics argue its population-based distribution formula unfairly diverts locally generated revenue away from originating communities, resulting in some losses. Now, the dismissal reported last week pauses litigation to allow ongoing legislative negotiations in Montgomery to pursue reforms for a fair system. The leaders such as Tuscaloosa Mayor described the move as good faith gesture to prioritize actual solutions. And number 1 today, we're going to talk about this during the Sunday News Show's recap, but U.S. Senator Katie Britt, she was on Fox News Sunday talking about the DHS shutdown negotiations. She said, "We won't walk away from enforcing the law." So Senator Katie Britt, the lead conservative negotiator and chair of the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee on Homeland Security, appeared on Fox News to address ongoing negotiations amid a partial government shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security, which occurred after Congress missed a midnight funding deadline. Now, Britt urged Democrats to return to the table for a funding deal while firmly rejecting their demands for reform, such as requiring ICE agents to unmask, ensuring lawful warrant execution. And when they say that, they want judicial warrants, where right now, in some cases, they use administrative warrants. She said, "What our Democratic colleagues have to realize is that we won't walk away from enforcing the law." And criticized Democrats for prioritizing international issues over domestic funding needs. Republicans opposed changes like unmasking, arguing it would endanger agents by doxing them. And by the way, the shutdown mainly impacts non-immigration functions such as FEMA, TSA, and the Coast Guard. So we're going to talk more about that later on in the show. Right now, I got to talk to you about Larry's Pistol and Pawn. Well, Valentine's Day has passed. Did you blow it this year, guys? Did you get your wife something that you didn't really think much of? Well, that's the case. Maybe you can make it up if you're in the doghouse, Make it up with some really nice jewelry. And you can find the best at Larry's Pistol and Pawn. Now, it's in Madison, off Greenbrier Exit 3, off 565. If you see that big rusty water tower, it's right next door. It's an 18,000 square foot facility. So I want you to go today and get something nice for your wife, your girlfriend, your loved one to make up for it. Yeah, I don't want you to stay in the doghouse forever. You're going to get the best prices. That's why you have to go there. The customer service is amazing. Larry's Pistol and Pawn in Madison, another location in Huntsville off North Memorial Parkway, and go to pistolandpawn.com. Make sure, as always, to let them know Yaffee was the one who sent you. Back in a moment here on the Yaffee program.
The Yaffee program.
You didn't start a business just to keep the lights on. You're here to sell more today than yesterday. You're here to win. Lucky for you, Shopify built the best converting checkout on the planet. Like the just one tapping, ridiculously fast acting, sky-high sales stacking, champion of checkouts. That's the good stuff right there. So if your business is in it to win it, win with Shopify. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/win.
Mic Drop.
You ready? Let's do it.
Hosted by former Navy SEAL Mike Ridland. It's unfiltered.
You know, you go to the sound of the gun, bam, you're gone.
It's weird. I mean, I've had so many near-death experiences.
It's raw.
I love this country. I offered my life to serve this nation and protect its people.
The question, what's the meaning of life? And to me, it just boils down to one single word, which is purpose.
Mic Drop. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Welcome back to the Yaffee program. I am Alabama's voice of reason, Huntsville's conservative conscience. Don't forget, you can weigh in. We have our Yaffee text line brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com, 866-494-9866. Okay, I was asking people since it's President's Day, and I want your take as well. I stole this from someone else, but I like the idea for today. Who would you put on Mount Rushmore? Would you keep it the same? Would you put other presidents? So let's see here. One person said, my Mount Rushmore would have George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Donald Trump, and Ronald Reagan. Now, right now there's 4, so he wants 5. I feel like we should stick to 4 for the premise of the question. But okay, fine. So you got to pick between Reagan or Trump. That's my that's my advice. Okay. Another person said Rushmore needs James Madison, Reagan, Lincoln, and Washington. Yeah, I like James Madison. He was not as good of a president as he was a congressman and founding father. But he's still, when it comes to the Bill of Rights, when it comes to the Constitution, he was probably the most instrumental. So he had a huge impact. So I think there's an argument to be made there. And I've had a couple people say that Reagan needs to be on the list. So you can tell me. I'm curious what you think. Maybe you think it should stay the same. And it doesn't have to be all presidents necessarily you like, just maybe presidents that have had the biggest impact. You know, I had said maybe Calvin Coolidge because I liked him. He had a big impact in a way because you had massive progressivism under Woodrow Wilson. Then Harding comes in, but then Calvin Coolidge really brings the country back to capitalism and Americanism. He doesn't get enough credit for doing that, but I maybe would add Calvin Coolidge up there. But Reagan, I think, is an obvious one. I think if we're going to have one, you have to have Reagan. If we were going to add one, you would have to have Reagan because of the impact. All right, let's see here. I did want to talk about this. You know, in the first segment, I was talking about Jonah Goldberg and his comments trashing Trump because he doesn't like Trump. But he said Trump has destroyed NATO, which I disagree with, obviously. NATO is not destroyed. It's just not it. But Rubio talked about this. So Marco Rubio delivers, this is according to ABC News here. It says Marco Rubio delivers blunt conciliatory speech to Western leaders in Munich. So it says Secretary of State Marco Rubio delivered a bluntly worded speech Saturday to leaders of Western nations, saying the Trump administration does not want to dismantle its traditional alliances. However, during his speech at the Munich Security Conference, he called on European countries to adopt the administration's right-wing policies on mass migration and do more for their own defense. I don't know why that would destroy NATO, maybe control immigration, which has been out of control in Europe, and also, do more for your own defense. I think that's good. But go ahead, if you can, Walker. Well, I want to play some of what Rubio said. Play Marco Rubio. Cut one for me.
For 5 centuries before the end of the Second World War, the West had been expanding. Its missionaries, its pilgrims, its soldiers, its explorers pouring out from its shores to cross oceans, settle new continents, build vast empires extending out across the globe. But in 1945, for the first time since the age of Columbus, it was contracting. Europe was in ruins. Half of it lived behind an iron curtain, and the rest looked like it would soon follow. The great Western empires had entered into terminal decline, accelerated by godless communist revolutions and by anti-colonial uprisings that would transform the world and drape the red hammer and sickle across vast swaths of the map in the years to come. Against that backdrop, then, as now, many came to believe that the West's age of dominance had come to an end, and that our future was destined to be a faint and feeble echo of our past.
So I think what he's basically talking about there is he is defending Western civilization. And that in order to keep, well, he's going to mention it in this next cut here, but in order to keep Western civilization strong, Europe has to help. They can't just rely on the United States to do it all. Obviously, we want to help, but it's good to see our leaders promote the greatness, not just of America, but of Western civilization as a whole. The current narrative by a lot in the propaganda press or in academia or our pop culture is that we need to go away from that. It was too colonialist. We must move on to this multicultural utopia based on equity or whatever. And that's not what's happening. Those philosophies are destroying the nations of the West, not making them better. Go ahead if you can. Play Marco Rubio cut 2.
But together, our predecessors recognized that decline was a choice, and it was a choice they refused to make. This is what we did together once before, and this is what President Trump and the United States want to do again now, together with you. And this is why we do not want our allies to be weak, because that makes us weaker. We want allies who can defend themselves so that no adversary will ever be tempted to test our collective strength. This is why we do not want our allies to be shackled by guilt and shame. We want allies who are proud of their culture and of their heritage, who understand that we are heirs to the same great and noble civilization, and who together with us are willing and able to defend it. And this is why we do not want allies to rationalize the broken status quo rather than reckon with what is necessary to fix it. For we in America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline.
I love that. I think he's right. It's basically what Trump has been saying. It's just Rubio says it in, I guess, a much more polite way. More of a way you would see a typical speech by someone like him, but still really good. But when Jonah Goldberg says, he's destroying NATO because he wants them to pay more for themselves, he wants them to stick up for the values of Western civilization as well. But because Trump says things and does things because he is the great disruptor, and he says things and does things in an unorthodox way, as I've said for a long time, it is the good and the bad of Trump. The good part of Trump is also the bad part of Trump. He is willing to do and say things that other presidents, other politicians, other world leaders were not willing to do or say. And most of the time, that's really good. And I think in NATO, it has resulted in a better, stronger NATO, believe it or not. But there are times because he is like that, it kind of gets him into trouble. And, I'm willing to admit that just as much as anyone else. So you can tell me what you think. Now, on the immigration front, because Rubio was saying, basically in part of his speech, he was saying that Europe needs to control its immigration. It's been out of control. And Tuberville says, America should not follow Europe's lead. He did this in a recent interview with 1819 News. I wanted to play the cut here. So, Walker, go ahead and play the Tommy Tuberville cut for me, one of our senators.
I was coming from New Delhi, India, and going through Brussels, and I wanted to stop and see the NATO commander. And that's where they took all the people from Afghanistan and put them in tents before they loaded them up and brought them here, over 100,000 of them. And so we talked about it. And you talking about having problems. He said we couldn't control them. They run in different cliques, young kids. There's no respect for anybody. And I said, well, did they have identification? No, they didn't have any identification whatsoever. But Biden administration said just load them on planes and bring them to the U.S. So they're here. That same group that was totally out of control. And it just scares you. It scares you. Why? Why do we bring them here? I mean, they have their own country. They have their own country. So that's just a problem that we have. And we have differences of opinion here in this country, how to do things. And that's one that, to me, it really crossed the line because we won't keep our country if we continue that mass immigration. Look at Europe. It's gone. They've lost it. And it's going to be hard for them to get it back. And their only alternative is what? Fight in the streets.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want that to happen here. So let's stop it before it gets to a point where it's going to be just a mass riots in the streets and the schools and all those things. People are going to lose their lives because of it. Because when you have one group that said, no, we're going to do it this way, and another group said, no, we're going to do it this way, nothing but conflict is what you can expect.
So a couple of things to address there. One, it just shows one of the other damaging effects of the complete botched withdrawal of Afghanistan that happened under Biden. The way that was handled was just horrendous. More examples every day that show that. But he's right. Look, I want the United States of America to be welcoming. I understand Europe wants to be welcoming. We already are the most welcoming country. We bring individuals from all over the world and give them a chance to come here in freedom and join our country. But there is a difference between doing that in an orderly process where we bring different individuals and we encourage assimilation. There's a difference between doing that and doing what we've been doing under Biden and what Europe has been doing, which is just bringing massive groups of different people from around the world that come from a completely different culture, not just language, but culture that clashes with Americanism. And then they come here and they want to completely transform it because we don't focus on assimilation. And a lot of times, too, we bring people from the third world. So what do they want? Welfare programs. Not all of them. Some of them do really well after being here. But when you're bringing in thousands of people from third world countries who come from a completely different culture and you don't encourage assimilation and you put them in areas where they basically just want to live off the American welfare system, that's not how an immigration policy should work. We can be welcoming to people that want to assimilate as a part of our country and do it in an orderly way so we don't, destroy the country. But that doesn't mean that we must just open the doors and let anyone in and say, well, this is what it means. That's suicidal. And we know that. We know that instinctively, but people have been, I guess, indoctrinated by academia and the propaganda press on this stuff. If you want to weigh in, you can. We have our Yaffee text line. Also got more people weighing in on the question of the day for President's Day. So I'm curious what you think. Who would you put on Mount Rushmore? Since we're celebrating presidents, would you change it? Would you keep it the same? What do you think? Tell me on our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNM, brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com. We'll be back in a moment on the Yaffee program. Stay with us.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
Welcome back to the Yaffee program. I am Alabama's Truth Czar. This is Huntsville's Disinformation Board. Appreciate you joining the show. Don't forget to text since it is President's Day. I know some of you still had to work like I did. But text in and tell me who you would like to see on Mount Rushmore if you had your favorite president. Weigh in on our text line, 866-494-9866. Now, in the next hour, we're going to go over some of the latest politics and other stuff as well during the Sunday News Show's recap. Right now, though, there's some crazy breaking news out of the Savannah Guthrie case, which is, you know about this, grabbed the world's attention. But before I get to that and what investigators might be thinking now, I want to play Savannah Guthrie, who you know from NBC's Today, a world-famous journalist, daughter of Nancy Guthrie, who was apparently kidnapped or at least went missing a couple weeks ago. She put out another video marking 2 weeks since this happened. Go ahead and play the Savannah Guthrie cut for me, Walker.
I wanted to come on and it's been 2 weeks since our mom was taken, and I just wanted to come on and say that we still have hope and we still believe. And I wanted to say to whoever has her or knows where she is that it's never too late. And you're not lost or alone. And it is never too late to do the right thing. And we are here. We believe. And we believe in the essential goodness of every human being. And it's never too late.
Really is just heartbreaking. I just can't even imagine what she's going through. She's obviously trying to appeal to the humanity of maybe whoever did this. But I did want to give you some breaking news because, I'd always thought most likely it was someone that knew her and, the ransom stuff was a distraction. Well, investigators, and I'm going to read this from the AP, but investigators actually have another theory. At least, things could change. Things have changed a lot, things since this started. But it says here, investigators reportedly believe Nancy Guthrie case is a burglary gone wrong and that she could be alive. So the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie is the result of a burglary gone wrong. It was not an intended kidnapping. That's according to a Sunday report from CBS 5 true crime correspondents. Now, she also shared another key detail in her report that the mom of NBC star Savannah Guthrie could be alive 2 weeks after she went missing from her Tucson, Arizona home. Now, Whitney is the reporter, said that this is a widespread belief among investigators in her report, which she said is based on an inside source. So she said, we now can report investigators believe this was a burglary gone wrong. She posted this on X. She said, we've interviewed multiple experts since this began who also said, based on the evidence, the surveillance video, and other aspects of this case, that they also believe this was not an intended kidnapping. So my question would be, okay, how did it turn into a kidnapping? But Whitney, who works for CBS affiliate in Phoenix, reported DNA evidence from the Range Rover investigators picked up about 2 miles away is being tested. And it says, and last but probably most important, the widespread belief by investigators tonight is that Nancy Guthrie could be alive. Now, Whitney's report comes as local cops and federal investigators have been scrambling for answers in the suspected kidnapping. Now, investigators are also looking at whether DNA from a glove found a few miles from her home matches anyone in the federal database. The outlets also reported authorities are leaning away from several people previously scrutinized, including the man whose home was searched Friday night, a man named Carlos who was stopped in the car last week, and they're also kind of leaning away from any of Guthrie's relatives. Now, FBI Director Kash Patel released pictures and video of the masked suspect, as you know. There was another report by Fox News correspondent Matt Finn, where the FBI said they had no idea where that came from regarding Whitney's report. So they're like, they have no clue, so that's not a good sign. It says, and Savannah Guthrie posted a video, which I just played. So there you go. So we have several theories here. One, that she was intended to be kidnapped for ransom, and we got ransom notes. Two, that it maybe was someone close to her or a family member that did end up killing her, and this is all a cover-up. Or maybe they hired someone because you see the surveillance video. Or three, that it was just intended to be a burglary because she lives in a pretty rich area. And then somehow it turned into a kidnapping. And that means she could still be alive as well if they actually kidnapped her. And then four, maybe none of the above. Maybe it's something that we're not seeing. I don't know. So I wanted to give you the latest on that because it's still getting a lot of attention. I mean, this really is, I guess, I don't know if people know this story, but really is kind of the Lindbergh baby story of our time, if you remember that. If you've read that in history, when Charles Lindbergh's baby was kidnapped and that became a national story. What was that, in the 1920s? 30s? I have to look that up again. It's been a while since I read about that. But there you go. So just wanted to give you the latest on that. Been updating the latest on that for the past couple weeks or so. Coming up next, we'll talk, I guess, government shutdown, at least Department of Homeland Security shutdown. Katie Britt was on Fox News Sunday, so I'll play some of those cuts for the Sunday News Show's recap. You are listening to the Yaffee program. Back in just a moment.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
Every week on the Stacking Benjamins podcast, we talk personal finance trends.
Not paying attention to the headlines is the strategy proven to work.
One headline, economists fear global recession. Literally the next headline, stocks hit all-time highs, investors optimistic on the future.
They're even doing it to the weather now. 28 million people in the path of this snowstorm. That means 340 million people have got good weather. It's just weather.
Layers, people, layers.
Stacking Benjamins. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
The Yaffee Program on WVNN.
So just kind of a warning here. One thing that did come up during the Sunday news talk shows, the Epstein files. But I got to tell you, most of it was just, we're mad because we want more information, because then we can start arresting people. Trump bad. And that's like it. Yeah, I hate to agree with Dale Jackson this much on this issue, but I do. The problem is it's turned into one of those perfect conspiracy theories, like many others, where everything proves the conspiracy. So they release files, that proves it. They don't release files, that proves it. If you redact, that proves it. If you don't redact, that proves it. There's no information, that proves it. If people are arrested, that proves it. And I don't know what to do with that. And it seems like it just kind of depends what side you're on. A lot of people say this proves that Democrat elites and big business is in on a conspiracy. And then other side just wants to blame Trump for hiding the conspiracy because he's part of the conspiracy. And at this point, I just need actual evidence where we could start charging people. But I told you, did you honestly think that the FBI was just sitting on evidence to arrest a bunch of powerful elites, and that as soon as you release the files, everyday people are going to find it, and then they're going to start rounding people up and arresting them? Nobody believed that was going. Well, they did believe it, but I don't know why. If the evidence was there, people would have already been arrested. And as one of the texters pointed out, and you can weigh in on the Yaffee text line, Biden could have arrested Trump. If Trump really is a part of the conspiracy, and that's somewhere in the so-called files, Biden could have arrested Trump years ago. So I just, trust me, they tried every other way to get Trump. If they thought if this could have done it, they would have done it. So all that to say is I'm not really going to play any of those cuts during the Sunday News Show's recap, but we do have more to get to. You are listening to the Yaffee Program. This is the show where you can count on the latest news, the important guests, and the best analysis, all for your morning commute here on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. All right, let's get to it. It's Monday, President's Day edition of the Yaffee Program, but Monday in the 10 o'clock hour, we have the Sunday News Show's recap. Recapping what happened on those Sunday news talk shows. So you don't have to watch it. I give you Sundays off. What can I say? My public service to you. It's a free service to you to listen. Doesn't cost you anything to listen to me. You should anyway. And I don't accept any taxpayer funding to do it. And we're talking shows like Fox News Sunday, Meet the Press, CBS Face the Nation, and others. I recap it for you. The highlights for you. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, so I want to play these cuts of U.S. Senator Katie Britt, one of our Alabama U.S. senators. She was on Fox News Sunday. And, of course, you might remember she was one of the lead negotiators to ending the shutdown that lasted for, over a month last year. And so she was trying to negotiate again to avoid this partial government shutdown, which is happening right now, Department of Homeland Security. And she says the Democrats are not negotiating in good faith and kind of explains it. She seems to be right. But go ahead and play Katie Britt.
First, if you rewind back to this, when we got to a CR, a 2-week CR, President Trump and Republicans wanted 6 weeks. Democrats are the ones that wanted 2. We said we've got to have time to figure out a pathway forward. They insisted on 2. We began working in good faith. You saw everything from the leadership, from the president all the way down. The president reaching out to Governor Walz, the president reaching out to Mayor Frey. You saw the secretary deploy body cameras. And then in addition to all of that, you saw Tom Homan go in, and you saw the announcement there on Thursday way of saying that we have had a successful mission, over 4,000 criminal illegal aliens found in Minnesota, and over 3,000 unaccompanied children that we didn't know where they were in this nation that have been identified. And so he said this is a success. We now have some local cooperation, and we're going to draw that down. When you look at the timeline, though, that Democrats gave, they didn't even tell us what they wanted until a social media post about 7 days in. And then if you look at that, it took them another 3 or 4 days to get text. We turned that around within 48 hours and said, okay, here are the things we're coming with. And then 48 hours later came with text of our own. It is clear that Republicans are working in good faith. And I think it was really short-sighted of Democrats to walk away from actually securing our homeland.
All right. So, like I said, I've been saying this for a while. Last year, they shut the government down over Obamacare subsidies. Those subsidies still went away, yet Democrats aren't even talking about it. They said it was the end of the world last year, but apparently it's just not even an issue. So they came up with something else, ICE agents, and that's calling them thugs or whatever. And so they're shutting down part of the government over that. They wanted something to virtue signal on so the base shows up in the midterms. And they really believe, and some polls suggest maybe they're right, but they really believe that shutdowns hurt Republicans. So they're going to keep doing this. And, of course, they get the help from the propaganda press. But Katie Britt explained pretty well. You know, they tried to negotiate. Democrats don't want to. They have demands, and they're like, you either meet these demands or we shut down. That's not a real negotiation. Go ahead and play Katie Britt cut 2 for me.
Shannon, this is big. This is how we keep Americans safe. We keep them safe through FEMA. We keep them safe through TSA. We keep them safe through the Coast Guard. We keep them safe through Secret Service and so many other things that are funded through this department. In addition, obviously, Border Patrol and ICE. And look, President Trump is not going to back away from the mission that American people said they wanted him to complete, and that is securing our border and making sure that we actually do interior enforcement. We know that we're going to support the law and we're going to enforce the law, and that doing it the right way matters, and that's exactly what we plan on doing.
Okay, so there you go. Republicans aren't going to change their minds on this. What's kind of interesting is Trump has caved a little. I mean, there has been a drawdown of ICE agents in Minneapolis. Tom Homan says that's more because they finished the job. I think that's true in some ways, but I also think Trump saw that the optics weren't good and he decided to throw them a bone, but it's not working. Democrats are still shutting down the government. Now go ahead and play Katie Britt cut 3.
First, to kind of go back to your earlier point, this is obviously the president negotiating with Democrats. There's no one better on the border than President Trump. There's no one better on interior enforcement than President Trump. And there's no one better at making a deal than President Trump. And so when we look at our role, it's supporting that and elevating that. But what our Democratic colleagues have to realize is that we're not going to walk away from enforcing the law. And when they talk about these different things and they're looking at it, they know that it's kind of rich, to be honest with you, to watch so many of them having flown off to Munich to talk about national security on the world stage, but yet failing to fund our own here at home. They know that ICE and CBP will continue to be funded throughout this, but they know that the other things that keep Americans safe will not, and that actual American workers, TSA agents, will be the ones paying the price. Look, we believe that local, state, and law enforcement should work together with federal law enforcement. That's why we don't believe in sanctuary cities. We believe sanctuary cities are the root cause of so much of what we're seeing today. We're not going to back away from that. We've come to the table with good faith propositions that we feel like keep our law enforcement officers safe and keep American citizens safe, which is our priority. And I hope that Democrats will join us. I think they continue to play politics, Shannon, and it's unfortunate because the American people will be the ones to pay the price.
Yeah, and it's over just one agency. And a lot of times I'd be like, well, shut the government down then. I don't care. At least they're spending less of our money and taking away less of our liberty. But the one agency that they're shutting down is kind of important. Unless we're going to get rid of TSA and privatize it, which maybe there's an argument for that. But, I mean, it's kind of important right now to have the Department of Homeland Security. If we're going to shut down one agency, it's probably not a good one to do over ICE funding. Go ahead and play cut 4 of Katie Britt.
No, look, I mean, this is a fundamental issue here for us in the country. When you think about what's happening, ICE enforcement, immigration enforcement is happening all across the country. Where we're having these issues is two things. One, where we have local and state elected leaders that are speaking so derogatory about ICE, calling them the Gestapo, saying get in their face. You couple that with a lack of cooperation. That means whereas normally if we have a criminal illegal alien that is in their detention, they are releasing them back into the community. That means it takes more ICE officers to go find and detain and then remove that individual. If they were to cooperate with us, it keeps law enforcement safe and it keeps communities safe. Look, they have created this environment by their rhetoric and their failed policies. What they're really holding out for is hoping that we'll cement the failed Biden border policies of the past, and it's not going to happen. We understand the mission. We're going to fulfill the mission. President Trump's going to secure our border. He's going to make sure that American people are safe. Look, I hope they come to the table, but at the end of the day, if they don't, Shannon, this is on them. They're putting illegal immigrants in front of American citizens. They fly across the globe to talk about national security when they've voted to defund ours, and the American people aren't going to have it.
Yeah, I like that last line. It's on them. I mean, I know we get caught up in our tribal partisan politics and we want to blame the other side, but this is one area where I'm sorry. The rhetoric against ICE itself has been completely extreme. And then the Democrat Party wants to use that rhetoric to shut down the Department of Homeland Security, which is one area is pretty important. And then when Republicans actually try to negotiate, and Trump actually does a drawdown of federal agents in Minneapolis, the Democrat Party doesn't want to negotiate. So that just kind of tells me they didn't really want a negotiation. So I guess this will probably end in a couple of weeks. Eventually, Democrats will try to claim while staying, they'll cave, but they'll try to claim they didn't and stay on their high horse. I don't know. And of course, the propaganda press will try to bail out the Democrat Party as well. You can tell me what you think. We have our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. It's also President's Day, so the question of the day, who would you like on Mount Rushmore? Would you keep it the way it is? Would you take off a couple, add a couple, make a completely new Mount Rushmore? I'd love to get your take. Which presidents do you think deserve to be up there? Tell me on the Yaffee text line, brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com, 866-494-9866. Right now, I'm going to tell you about my good friends at Jay's Appliance Outlet. They're located in Athens. We were talking about ICE as in federal agents, but what about, ice you like in your drink or maybe your cooler? Is the ice machine not really working in your freezer? That can be annoying. If you want a fridge where the ice machine is going to work, if you want a refrigerator, a freezer that works, yeah, you can go to one of those big box stores and pay way too much, not get great customer service, or go to Jay's Appliance Outlet. They have delivery options as well, so they can deliver it to your home. You're going to get it for a great price, better price than anywhere else. And they're family owned and operated. So you're going to get customer service that a lot of these other stores, they're not going to match. So go to Jay's Appliance Outlet in Athens or give them a call, dial pound 250 and say the keyword Jay's Appliance Outlet. That's pound 250, keyword Jay's Appliance Outlet. They're located off 72 in Athens as you're going towards downtown Athens. Jay's Appliance Outlet. When you contact them and get that freezer and the ice maker that actually works, let them know Yaffee sent you. All right, we'll be back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
The Yaffee program.
News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Back here on the Yaffee program. You know who I am. You know how the show works. Now, if you want to find out more about me, I guess you can like the Yaffee Facebook page. And yes, that's my real last name. And yes, it's spelled Yaffee. You can follow me on X at Yaffee as well, or Instagram at Yaffee Live. By the way, you can always listen to the show live. You can't on the radio. You can online, WVNN.com, your iHeartRadio app, or any of your smart devices. All right, let's get to it. The second segment now of the Sunday News Shows Recap. recapping what was talked about, what happened on those Sunday news talk shows. So you don't have to watch them. You don't have to worry about it. It's my public service to you. Talking shows like ABC This Week or Fox News Sunday or CNN State of the Union. You're welcome. You're welcome. You get Sundays off. All right, so I want to play these cuts from Democrat Senator Chuck Schumer. Now, just so you know, I have said this, and I still believe this. Chuck Schumer is in competition with Senator Adam Schiff of California to be the slimiest member of the Senate. But, of course, this is important because you have the government shutdown. But he also talked about the SAVE Act, which is a bill they're trying to pass in the Senate. Now, as I mentioned last week, Chuck Schumer said the SAVE Act is like Jim Crow 2.0. He is doubling down on that, believe it or not, even though it's really an insane thing to say. But go ahead if you can, Walker. Play Chuck Schumer, cut 1 for me.
That's a lot of bull. They show no evidence of voter fraud. They show there's so little in the country. And to have ICE agents, these thugs, be by the polling places, that just flies in the face of how democracy works, of how we've had elections for hundreds of years, very successfully. It makes no sense at all. And we will, in our legislation, we say that ICE agents should not be anywhere near polling places. Again, I think most Americans agree. You talk to people at polling places who operate the polling places, they don't want these ICE agents near them and intimidating them.
Now, I just have to say, I don't think there's really a big point to have ICE agents at polling places, but even if they are there, so what? ICE agents are just trying to capture illegal immigrants. Well, if you're not an illegal immigrant, what do you care if ICE is there or not? And illegal immigrants are not supposed to be voting. Now, of course, they're trying to frame it in a way that, well, ICE, they're thugs and they're just going after American citizens too. It's Trump's personal police force or something. It's absurd. So it's kind of like, if there is an ICE agent outside my polling place, I say, hi, how you doing? Thank you for being here. Like, what do I care? If you're an American citizen, who cares? But they frame it in such a way which is stupid. Now go ahead and play Chuck Schumer cut 2 for me.
About 83% of the American people, including majority Democrats, support voter ID laws.
Well, yeah, the voter ID laws that, first, each state can have its own voter ID laws, and some do and some don't. But secondly, what they are proposing in this so-called SAVE Act is like Jim Crow 2.0. They make it so hard to get any kind of voter ID that more than 20 million legitimate people, mainly poorer people and people of color, will not be able to vote under this law. We will not let it pass in the Senate. We are fighting it tooth and nail. It's an outrageous proposal that is, that shows the sort of political bias of the MAGA right. They don't want poor people to vote. They don't want people of color to vote because they often don't vote for them.
All right, so it's just so dumb. How insulting is it to say that someone who is poorer can't vote because they have trouble getting an ID? Or insulting to minorities. Oh, it's trouble getting. Now, people will say to me, oh, not everyone can get a birth certificate. Okay, there are other ways. One, yes, pretty much it's not difficult. I had to find my birth certificate to get a new driver's license that had the real ID thing. We have to have this stuff all the time. So we have to prove citizenship to get a driver's license with the real ID or a passport. But you don't have to prove citizenship to register to vote? Now, I wasn't the only one who brought this up. A lot of other people did, but I still think it's hilarious. They have to use an ID to vote in Congress. Did you know that? They have to put in an actual ID that it scans to actually vote in Congress, in the Senate and House. So to pass the SAVE Act itself, you need an ID, but we don't need that for voting. And then they always claim, well, there's no voter fraud. How can we possibly know? It's almost impossible to tell if we're not checking. But there is voter fraud. We talked about it. But really, when it comes to illegal immigration, as I've said before, it's not just about voter fraud. It's also about when you import thousands of illegal immigrants and you put them in sanctuary cities, even if they're not voting, they're counted in the census, which can be used for redistricting, and Democrats use that to get more members of Congress. So that's a part of this as well. Now, when it came to the SAVE Act, I know that Kristi Noem, I guess people are criticizing her because she was talking about we need to make sure that the right people are voting in the right places. She said, yes, we must build election infrastructure that makes it easy and secure for eligible American citizens to vote while preventing non-citizens, including illegal aliens, from casting ballots. The choice of who to vote for is obviously up to the voters themselves. So everyone's like, she said, we have the right people voting, electing the right leaders to this country. And she called the comments common sense. And everyone's like, well, what did she mean? What did she mean by the right leaders? Oh, what did she mean by the right people voting? Is she talking about white people? Is she a racist? Now, Tom Homan was asked about this. Go ahead if you can. Walker, real quick. Play the Tom Homan Cut 1. This is Borders Are Tom Homan on CNN State of the Union.
What does she mean when she says electing the right leaders? That's not really immigration enforcement or DHS responsibility.
I don't know. That'd be a question for the secretary. If I had to guess, probably that only those legally eligible to vote would vote. But I have not talked to the secretary about those statements. That'd be something she'd have to answer.
Okay, so I mean, he was nice there. Said I don't really know. You have to ask her. But it sounds like she's saying we have to make sure only eligible citizens are voting. Of course, that's what she meant. They're trying to make it into something else. No, what she's talking about is that only eligible people are the ones voting. That's what she meant. It's pretty obvious, at least to me. All right, we're going to move on to what's trending coming up next and one more segment of the Sunday News Show's recap later in the hour. You're listening to the Yaffee program. Back in just a moment.
Mic Drop, hosted by former Navy SEAL Mike Ridland.
What does it mean to be an American?
Be American is you love your country above all else.
I love this country. I was born here, raised here. I offered my life to serve this country.
And if you don't do your part to preserve what we have here and our culture, it's going to be gone. And we can't let that happen.
Yeah, that's Mic Drop.
Mic Drop. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM WVNN, back here on the Yaffee program. Glad you've joined the show. And as you know, if you missed any of the show live, the podcast is up anywhere podcasts are available. Still have the question of the day. I'd love to hear your response. Had several people weigh in already, but I want to hear your response. It's President's Day, so who would you have on Mount Rushmore? If you could choose 4 presidents, who would you pick? I'll let you know who I'd pick at the end of the show. Walker is here right now, though, so let's get to it. We have What's Trending with Walker.
Keeping you up to date with all that's trending in your world.
Oh, they have the internet on computers now.
You guys know how to post videos to Facebook?
It's What's Trending.
Brought to you by Coleman Furniture Market. By the way, their big President's Day sale is going on right now. Check it out. Comfort that looks as good as it feels. You can see some of the latest stuff they have coming in. You can get on sale for this President's Day sale, including a row sectional that brings clean lines, deep seating, and that laid-back lounge vibe that makes a living room feel finished without trying too hard. So if you want to see some of the President's Day savings, check it out today at Coleman Furniture Market. Now, they're located in the heart of Coleman, Alabama, and you can find out more about the sale right now. Like their Facebook page. You can follow them on Instagram or go to the website, ColemanFurnitureMarket.com. When you do, let them know Yaffee was the one who sent you. All right, Walker, what's number 5 today?
Number 5 is McDonald's releases their Shamrock Shake for the year tomorrow.
Okay, have you ever had that? I was trying to remember. I think Bugsy said she didn't like it. I can't remember if Kelsey liked it. I think my wife likes it, but I'm not a huge fan.
I love minty ice cream stuff, so it's really my kind of thing.
So you'll be there then.
Absolutely,
be there soon,
at least once.
All right. Yeah, I'm much more of just like if I go to McDonald's for something like that, I want a mocha frappe.
Oh,
or
okay.
something like that's what sounds good to me.
I really like the option to make it half Shamrock, half chocolate. I think that is really the
So what's the
best
regular?
mix. The regular is just like minty ice cream, like milkshake.
Oh, okay. So it's instead of all mint ice cream, mint chocolate, you can actually get half mint chocolate and then half just regular chocolate.
Well, the original doesn't have chocolate at all.
Oh, well, that's weird. I feel like it has to have some chocolate, like mint chocolate. So I think you might be right, even though I'm not a big fan of like mint ice cream, just never have been. But yeah, if you're gonna have it, at least have some chocolate in there. So I kind of agree with you on that. So when does that come out? Tomorrow? You said?
Yes, tomorrow, and it'll be anywhere from people are saying between $4 and $5 or up to $6 for a medium.
Okay, I guess that's not too surprising. All right, what's number 4 today?
Number 4 is the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, Search for SquarePants, is available for streaming starting tomorrow.
Is you going to be ready for that? You going to see that as soon as it comes out streaming? You're going to watch that?
Well, it's coming out on Paramount Plus, and I don't have that, but I might watch it if someone I know has it.
Oh, so you actually do want to? I was just kind of kidding, but maybe you actually do want. You would watch it.
Well, SpongeBob was a big part of growing up for me. So.
Oh, that's true. That's true because you're younger than me. I mean, I remember when SpongeBob came out, but it was a little past my time of watching stuff like that. I do remember thinking, "Wow, this is a crazy show," which it definitely was and is.
Yeah, it is.
A crazy show.
And if you buy the digital and Blu-ray versions, you get 20 minutes of bonus content, peeking inside the recording booth and seeing the creation of the Flying Dutchman.
Oh, okay. Nice. Okay. I've never seen the movies. I mean, I've seen the television show, and I know they've had a couple, but I've never. But, I'm probably pretty close to that time when I probably will. Because Evie eventually will get to that age, so.
Oh, I'm sure.
Who knows? All right, what's number 3?
Number 3 is a America's Next Top Model documentary is out today. It is a 3-part Netflix series looking back at the highs and lows of the reality show.
Did you ever watch that?
I watched too much of it at too young of an age, probably.
Oh, it corrupted your mind? You thought you had to look like them?
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, I know that once again, that's not really, I know what it is. Because Tyra Banks was the original host, right?
Yes. She was host for all 24 seasons except one.
Oh, okay. Is she still doing it, or is that the one was the last season?
That ended in 2018.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, shows how much I know. I don't know. But it's a typical reality show, right? It's not just like the game show aspect of it, but you're following them behind the scenes and all that.
Yes, and the documentary includes interviews with former judges, contestants, and producers.
All right. Okay, so I'm guessing then you'll probably watch this.
I would like to see it, yes, because
what is it on?
Netflix. There is
which you don't have, you said.
I don't, but one of my friends does, so I should be able to access
Don't
it.
tell Netflix.
Yeah, right.
No,
right.
Don't tell them. They won't even let you in the same room unless you're a subscriber. I heard that's a new rule.
It's so dumb.
All right, what's number 2?
Number 2 is there are new biodegradable Mardi Gras beads. They're turning to that because after flooding a few years ago, there were 46 tons or 2.5 million pounds of beads clogging their storm drains.
Really?
Yes.
So it's biodegradable.
Yes, it's called Plant Me Beads. 3D printed from starch-based polylactic acid spheres containing okra seeds, which attract bacteria to help them decompose.
I mean, I guess it's a good idea. I don't know. Could you eat them, I guess? No, it's not. They're not edible, just biodegradable.
You could plant them and grow okra.
I do like okra. Do you like fried okra, by the way? I love fried okra.
I liked it when I was younger, but for some reason, I guess I grew out of having a taste for it.
That's a weird thing to grow out of having a taste for. Usually people grow into liking okra. You grew out of it.
Yeah, because my elementary school had it as a side for lunch sometimes, and I liked it then. And I guess maybe it had just been a few years since I'd had it, and the next time I did, I was like, oh, I actually don't like this very much.
Maybe did you have a traumatizing experience in elementary school? Is that why it brings you back?
Well,
and you just don't like that time of your life?
Not with okra. The only traumatic experience I have with school lunch was when I was forced to eat coleslaw after telling...
You were forced to eat it?
Well, they kept telling me that I needed to eat it, and I was like, I know that I don't like this. And I puked everywhere, and they learned their lesson.
You have to eat this coleslaw. Man, I don't like coleslaw either, so that's one I've kind of grown into. There are some that I'll eat, but I'm still not a huge fan. What about you? Do you not like it still to this day?
Oh, no. I hate coleslaw.
You don't like okra, don't like coleslaw, but you like oatmeal, we found out. Remember that.
Yeah.
All right. Are we at number one?
We are at number one.
What's number one?
Obama made people think that he knew that there were evidence of aliens because he was...
How did I miss this story?
Okay, so he was on a podcast with Brian Cohen, and he was asked during a lightning round, are aliens real? He said, they're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in Area 51. And he ended up having to clarify because it went viral. He released a statement saying, I was trying to stick with the spirit of the speed round, but since it's gotten attention, let me clarify. Statistically, the universe is so vast that the odds are good that there's life out there. But the distances between solar systems are so great that the chances we've been visited by aliens is low, and I saw no evidence during my presidency that extraterrestrials have made contact with us. Really?
I mean, that's kind of what I thought he was saying in the original comment. Because the original comment, he says, we don't have evidence, but they exist.
Yes.
But people are like, oh, he's the president. He must know.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with that. And I don't say that a lot about Obama, but I agree with him. I think that's a logical answer, that there probably isn't evidence behind the scenes that we've been visited by aliens and we have them in Area 51. But statistically speaking, when you look at the size of the universe, it would seem crazy to believe that life isn't out there somewhere else too, that it's only on this planet. So, I agree with them. What do you think?
I agree with him.
I ask you that because Kelsey's a full-blown believer. He thinks we've been visited. I think he believes that he has been visited himself.
He thinks he's been visited himself?
No, I totally made that up. I totally made that. But he does believe like we have been visited and that we're hiding the evidence. If I remember correctly, he is a big believer in a lot of that stuff.
Personally, I do not think we've been visited because I think they are extremely far away.
Well, you think
if they are out there.
What, the closest star is 7 light years away? It means if you're traveling the speed of light, it would take 7 years just to get here.
Right.
It's just and that's just one of our closest stars. I mean, and we don't even know how many light years life would be. So yeah, it would be difficult to happen. But I tend to agree with you on that. All right. Thanks, Walker. I appreciate it. If you believe in aliens, you can tell me on the Yaffee text line, I guess, 866-494-9866. Or tell me, since it is President's Day, what presidents do you think should be on Mount Rushmore? Or maybe keep it the way it is. What if you had an option to make your own Mount Rushmore, who would you want up there? Tell me. 866-494-9866. 866-494-WVNN. We got one more segment of the Sunday News Show's recap next here on the Yaffee program. Stay with us.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
Back here on the Yaffee program, News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Just real quick, For my Mount Rushmore, I think I would pick. I feel like you have to keep Washington and Jefferson and Lincoln. So I have to keep 3 of them. So the 4th one really is the tough one. But not really. It's got to be Reagan. You just remove Teddy Roosevelt and put Reagan. That's what you have to do. Now, if I were forced to remove all of those and put who I want, that's a little bit tougher. I would probably put, if you had to pick, like, since after Lincoln, I guess, or even Roosevelt, I'd have to put Calvin Coolidge, Ronald Reagan. I guess you maybe put Trump as well. Who would be the 4th one? That is a great question. Maybe Eisenhower? Ike Eisenhower, he wasn't perfect, but he was decent. Or if you go all the way back, if we can go back further, maybe James Madison, James Monroe, he was not a bad president. But really, you got to keep 3, and I'd just remove Roosevelt and put Reagan, or just add Reagan. I think he should be up there. All right, time right now, though, for the final segment of the Sunday News Show's recap. Recapping those Sunday news talk shows, so you don't have to watch them. I recap it for you, give you Sundays off, my public service to you. You're welcome. So in the last segment we did this, I did play one cut of Tom Homan, but Tom Homan was also on CNN's State of the Union talking about the latest operations. And of course, those in the propaganda press are they're trying to create division within the Trump administration, but I think there actually is some division as well between, say, Kristi Noem and Tom Homan. But go ahead if you can, Walker, play Tom Homan cut 2 for me.
Look, the president called me and asked me to go to Minnesota and asked me to get up there that same day, and I went up there. I just did things the way I've done for 40 years, and I know a lot of people questioned, why are you meeting with the governor? Why are you meeting with the attorney general and Mayor Fry? I've always been, you can't fix problems talking in an echo chamber. You got to talk to the people that you may disagree with. People have a different opinion on how you're doing it. I want to hear. I want to see what do you see as the issue. Why do you not agree with certain aspects of the operation? That's how you, in my experience, that's how you fix problems. You don't fix it in an echo chamber. So I met with them, and look, we came out. I think it's safer in Minnesota, safer in Minneapolis, because now we have coordination with the jails that we didn't have before. And the criminal aliens that everybody agrees, I think, even most of the Democrats, we agree too. Criminal aliens should be something ICE focus on. You can't say that and not let us in the jails. You can't square that. But I've gotten agreements in Minnesota I never thought we'd be able to get. So
there you go. Tom Homan is not a bureaucrat. He's not a typical bureaucrat. He is not a politician. He is someone who really just cares about one issue, and that's this issue. And he was a head law enforcement officer on that in the past. So when he looks at a problem, he just wants to get it done. I appreciate that. Really, that's the kind of leadership we need in some of these agencies. We have a lot of politicians who care more about the optics than just finding solutions. So I appreciate that. And he was able to get some solutions. Since Tom Homan has been in charge, we have not seen some of the chaos. And I think that's because, even though they won't admit it, the Tim Walzes of the world caved a little bit as well behind the scenes. They still had the crazy rhetoric in front of the cameras. But behind the scenes, they were willing to work with Tom Homan a little bit. Seems to be what happened here. So I appreciate his approach. I can't really be against that. As I mentioned, Kristi Noem, she was great at the border initially, but when it came to reacting to some of these incidents in Minneapolis, her rhetoric it was crazy. She said Alex Preddy was there to kill ICE officers. Obviously, that wasn't true. He was there to cause problems, but to kill them? And so when you put up stuff like that, you're ruining the credibility of what you're trying to do. So Tom Homan comes in and fixes things, and I think it's important. Now go ahead and play Tom Homan cut 3 for me.
The operation ended. We arrested, a lot of people there, and over 4,000 arrests. And I looked at the numbers just this morning, Jake. There's over 14 committed, arrested that were charged with homicide. There's 180 sexual offenses. So we took a lot of bad people off the street. So I think Minnesota, Minneapolis is safer because of it. And I got to give credit to the governor. We had good conversations. The state prisons are helping us. And Mayor Fry, me and Mayor Fry will never agree on much, but you know what? His officers did respond to take down illegal roadblocks that made it unsafe for not only citizens of Minnesota, but our officers. I think we're in a lot better spot than we ever have been.
All right, there you go. So he just wants to solve problems. I appreciate people like that. But I do not appreciate people like Robert Garcia, who is a Democrat in the House on this issue. And he was on, I believe, Face the Nation. And what he said is just dumb. But go and play the Robert Garcia cut for me, Walker.
Look, I think it's just been very recently where we actually see more and more Republicans actually speak out and begin to show some level of courage. ICE, CBP, DHS is completely out of control. We have heard, not just in hearings, but certainly in looking at what's happening across this country and folks talking and telling their stories. We're talking about U.S. citizens that are being shot. We're talking about U.S. veterans that are being detained for no reason, children that are being deported as young as 4 or 5 years old, sent to detention in other cases, as we've seen. And so I think you're beginning to see some Republicans actually show concern. But right now, DHS is causing terror across this country. And Donald Trump has turned not just DHS, but ICE specifically, which we now know is larger than it's ever been, into his own personal police force.
So dumb. He has not. It's so dumb. He has not done that. His own personal police force. Dear God. I just don't. Do these people believe what they're saying? All right. Appreciate you listening to the show. If you missed any of it, the podcast will be up on the website, WVNN.com, or anywhere podcasts are available. Thanks to Walker for producing. I'll be back tomorrow. Same time. See you then.
The Yaffee Program.
Mic Drop. Hosted by former Navy SEAL Mike Ridland.
What does it mean to be an American?
To be American is you love your country above all else.
I love this country. I was born here, raised here. I offered my life to serve this country.
And if you don't do your part to preserve what we have here and our culture, it's going to be gone. And we can't let that happen.
Yeah, that's Mic Drop.
Mic Drop. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.